Monthly forum on the peace process from diverse women organizations and institutions met in Juba on September 11, 2020 in the Republic of South Sudan, which was signed on September 12, 2018, of the peace agreement and progress made to date by the signatories of the R-Access for the formation of revitalized transitional government of national unity in February 2020, and consequences of this conflict, including impunity, rape, severe hunger, displacement, and almost complete lack of social services. We urge the Artigonu and the humanitarian actors to look into the ongoing humanitarian crisis in the country, which is linked to the conflict and recently aggravated by the severe floods in the Greater Jonglei, further underlines the urgency for sustainable peace. Further disturbed by the continuous intercommunal conflicts devastating across the different communities of South Sudan, which has a severe impact on women and children, and it compromises the implementation of the R-Access. We call upon the Artigonu to ensure safety measures as the cantonment and training sites are placed near civilian areas, which increases vulnerabilities to communities, specifically women and children. Without protection, women and children living the near areas are vulnerable to attacks and gender-based violence. We further call upon Artigonu to improve structures and related terms of reference governing the cantonment sites to incorporate the views of the people living in those locations, especially women. We note with concern that security is not only the absence of conflict, but the guarantee of freedom of movement, access to resources, food, water, and education, and more importantly, a general sense of safety. We therefore recommend the following to Artigonu. We call upon the Artigonu to speed up the unification of the armed forces and ensure that by the end of the training of unified forces, they are employed and vacate the other cantonment and training sites apart from Rajaf, which is a national police training center. We also call upon the Artigonu to end all forms of violence, including sexual and gender-based violence, and apprehend and punish all perpetrators of violence and abuses against women and girls. We further call upon Artigonu to find a more localized and sustainable means to resolve the intercommunal conflicts in the country to further displacements of children and women. We call upon all signatories and the non-signatories to R-Access to abide by the Rome Declaration and stop any military confrontation as it's impacting negatively on women and children. Finally, we urge the Artigonu to speed up the formation of the state's governments and reconstitute the Transitional National Legislative Assembly, bearing in mind the 35% affirmative action for women stipulated in the R-Access in Article 1.4.4. African Union Peace and Security Council and IGAD countries. We call upon the African Union Peace and Security Council, which is responsible for the promotion of peace and stability in Africa, and IGAD, to urge the Artigonu to uphold the spirit and the text of R-Access and demonstrate a political will to abide by the R-Access. IGAD countries should demonstrate leadership, responsibilities, and impartiality in supporting the peace agreement in letter and spirit, because stability in South Sudan means stability and development to the region. To women groups, provide regular and reliable feedback to constituencies you represent on the progress of R-Access and the security arrangements. Remain non-partisan, committed, determined, and professional as you carry our voices to the grassroots. Provide mediation roles by influencing parties to compromise and reach consensus on sticky issues such as the issues of counties in the peace agreement.
The violation of the 35% came in when we see in the governance systems. During the ministerial positions at the national level, it was 36%. We remain with 9%, 26%. And then we remain with 9%, which is out. And when we see the government has been formed, the state governors, the SPLM-IO has brought a female governor, and the SPLM-IG did not bring even a female governor. That makes that's a violation of the agreement, because it is saying that women to be represented in all governance. As the government missed the 35% affirmative actions, as women, we say that is a violation, and we need, up to now, we're still urging the government to fulfill the remaining 2 space of governors, and we also urge them to see that appointing women at independent commissioners at the state level and also at the national level. As I've said, women are pushing, and especially the Women Multi-Forum with the other women's group we are really pushing to see that our government listen and don't violate the 35%, because the 35% was signed in Addis. It was a real commitment that women fought for it, and the 35% cannot be violated. 2, the challenges is this: our sisters which are in political party are sometimes not helping us so that they can see the 35% is really being fulfilled. So we are urging the sisters who are in political parties to work hard with us to make sure that they pressurize the political parties' leaders to make sure 35% is being in place. This time we don't want it to be violated again. I can say some have been implemented, because since the signing of the peace agreement, we have the mechanism which has been formed, they're in place, people are working towards it. At least we can say that there's achievement that has been made, because we see that the government has been formed, and we can say that is an achievement which is done. And we really urge that the remaining of the thing can be completely. We have issues in the security arrangement, is still work going on, and then we have issues of the states. Up to now, Jungule, Apanel State, the governor has not been appointed, and we hope that they will sit down and resolve the issue so that the state should have the governor in place. We can say government has a very long hand, and that is why we are urging the government really to stop this rape. Why we are saying this? Because the people who rape are in uniform, and we see last week the court in Yei, it was almost 20 or 30 SSPDF who was brought into court, and they were found guilty. That's why we say we urge the government really to work hard to make sure that the perpetrators has been held accountable, because government has a long hand.
Political parties who signed the agreement, and some of these political parties have arms, like the SPLM-IO, they have soldiers, the SAWA, they have soldiers, and the government, they have. And these people are the government. These political parties are the government, and they are the Tigonu. That is why we are saying that the government should really stop the sexual gender-based violence which is happening in South Sudan. And on top, as women, we are monitoring the gender-based violence, and we do come up with statements like this so that the government also can read and listen to the media so that they can take action. The issue of the 35%, as my colleague said, we only, in the national government, it is 26%. And in those days, you also came up with the press statement urging the government to fulfill the 35% affirmative action, which is stipulated in the ARCIS. And today, as you heard in the statement, we are also urging the government to not violate the 35% affirmative action which is stipulated in the agreement. As for the governors in the states, there are 10 governors because we have 10 states. We are supposed to have 3 governors. We appreciate the party which have appointed a woman governor, but we still urge that we remain with two governors. They should appoint two governors. And in the remaining, like the states, we also need, we urge the government to stick to what they signed, which is the 35% affirmative action for women. Actually, if not with the issue of the COVID-19, which is affecting the movement of everybody in South Sudan, we as the Women Monthly Forum, we used to go to the states, and we can also put our effort to talk to the conflicting parties or those who are fighting in the states, so that these intercommunal conflicts stop, so that everybody is in peace. And when everybody is in peace, the whole country will be in peace. Actually, IGAD is the mediating body, and they have an upper hand to really urge or put pressure on the Artigonu so that they can fulfill their responsibility for appointing women in the 35% affirmative action. And this also IGAD is doing its part, and this time we are calling upon the African Union Peace and Security Council, which is the body responsible for peace and security in Africa, so that they can also put their voice to what is taking place in South Sudan. Actually, the issue of the 3 children who were slaughtered were taken seriously by the government. Even our president have ordered the police specifically to take action about that, and people have been arrested, and they have identified the person who did the action, and he's still under arrest, and they will still continue with the case. And secondly, when we talk about sexual gender-based violence, we are talking about the general situation in South Sudan. And you can see that our voices here has reached the government, and they have taken action in Yei. About 25 soldiers have been arrested, and they have been persecuted. So that is our voice, because peace is a process. It's not that it happens overnight. It is a long term. You can say something today, but its impact will take place after some time.